Yo, welcome back to the channel, everyone. Now, as you guys can see here, I'm not in the Mustang. It's been almost 3 weeks since I've last driven the car. If you guys are unaware, I recently blew up the clutch in my supercharged New Edge Mustang. Was doing some hard pulls, was just having a good time enjoying the car, and things just broke. Obviously, that was gonna happen. It was a stock clutch in a car that makes more than double the wheel horsepower and torque than it does out of the factory, so it was going to go bad. Now I want to go ahead and make an update video for you guys. You guys know exactly what's going on with the car, because I don't want to, obviously go like 3 weeks without actually dropping a video inside that car, because I know some people are wondering what's going on. Some people thought that I had the car running already because I was uploading some older races on the channel in short form. That's not the case. The car is currently like torn apart, like pretty much the whole front end is torn apart to kind of access the transmission and replace the clutch, because I have long tube headers. Now, if you guys are New Edge Mustang owners, I'm going to tell you guys this right now. If you guys are ever going to do a long tube header install on your car, if you guys are trying to go full bolt-ons, if you guys are trying to go boost, when you guys do the long tube header install, make sure you guys go ahead and get a new clutch that can support, I'd say, 200 to 300 horsepower, additionally to what you believe you would eventually push on the car. You're gonna save yourself a lot of time going ahead and tearing the car down, because the passenger side header is a complete bitch to get out, and it just takes a lot of time and effort to go ahead and get that stuff done. So we're trucking. Unfortunately, I have like no idea when I'm gonna get the car back. Hopefully it will be within the next, I'd say, week or so. It definitely should be in the next week or so. But the meat and potatoes of this video is there actually was kind of some hidden damage from, I guess, over time. I personally was not the first owner of this car. Obviously, I wasn't the second owner of this car. I wasn't the third owner of this car. So there was a lot of things that, if I knew about them, I definitely would have done them around the time. Actually, I would have done them the exact time I went ahead and actually got the supercharger installed, or at the very least would have done them when I had the long tube headers installed. Now, what we found out that was wrong with the car is that the whole pretty much front suspension is shot. The car needs new lower control arm or front control arms. It needs new motor mounts, which I did know the car needed motor mounts. I had figured that out kind of within the last, I'd say, month or so. But considering the fact that we are going to be going ahead and throwing in a built motor into the car, I was like, well, there's really no reason to go ahead and do the motor mounts right now. We'll just do that when the motor comes in. But unfortunately, because of, the disassemble of the pretty much the front end of the car to get to the transmission, we have to go ahead and replace the motor mounts. And I'm gonna also go ahead and replace the lower control arms, the front lower control arms for the car. Now, going ahead and looking at some of the other things that, was, definitely needing of repair, I'm gonna have to do the rear main seal, I think it's called. Definitely, that's obvious. That was gonna get replaced anyway, when the motor got put in, but that's definitely needs to be replaced too. And just overall, just the whole suspension of the car, I think I should definitely go ahead and take a look at and replace before I really go ahead and push any more horsepower out of the Mustang, because it makes 450 wheel, 450 torque, and I'm trying to push the car, upwards of, 800 plus with the new motor setup. So that's definitely going to have to be addressed. I think I'm going to go ahead and do that around the same, actually not around, I'm going to do that the same time the car is torn apart to get the motor installed. We're going to do the suspension. I think I'm going to go with the Maximum Motorsport suspension. I'm just going to do like the street suspension for the car. I'm not going to be taking it to the drag strip 24/7 because I kind of want to build a street car. I will take it to the strip to get, the time to see exactly, how fast I could shift it, and overall just get a better feel of the car down the track and not just, on the road. But it's not going to be living at the track 24/7. So I'm just going to get, upgraded suspension with the Maximum Motorsports. I think I'm actually going to go ahead and do a K member as well with the car, just so it's a little bit easier to work on. And if, let's say I have to go ahead and change another clutch, it's going to be a lot easier to disassemble the long tube headers at the same time while going ahead and doing the clutch job as well with the K member. So that's something that definitely needs to be done with the Mustang. I'm kind of glad that I figured this out now, because if, you know, I didn't know about this when the motor was about to get, you know, put into the car, that would have taken, you know, honestly a lot more time. Now I can just go ahead and start stocking up some more parts that I didn't know I needed, but now I do know. So when it's time to, you know, build that car up, everything's there, all the parts are there, all the hardware is there. It's just tear down and then put everything new and improved back on the car without having to have, you know, things, you know, half done and then having to wait for more parts and then to put it in, you know, just wasting time. At least I know that, you know, what I need to get done now for suspension wise for the Mustang. Now, what I am going to say is I think I'm also going to go ahead and replace the long tube headers on the Mustang as well. The BBK long tube headers, the ones that I have, I just have the regular, they're like the base BBK headers. Those are the only ones that were available, because if you guys are unaware, I actually was not even planning on doing a long tube headers until I actually went ahead and built the motor, because I knew I was going to build this motor, or not this motor, but I was going to build a motor, a 4.6 motor to put into this car. I was going to do everything at the same time, but we had the ridiculously bad exhaust leak with these short tubes that were actually cracked. So I just went ahead and put the long tubes in. Now that I, you know, in the situation I am right now, I kind of wish that, you know, those short tubes are actually completely fine, because realistically, the long-term goal is more important than the short-term goal. So it wouldn't have mattered if I did the long tubes when I did them, but now, considering the fact that this whole tear-down process is taking a lot longer, because the long tube headers, I kind of wish that, you know, I just put the short tubes in, or the short tubes were fine, but it is what it is. I think I'm just going to go ahead and put some American racing headers on the car, just because they tuck up a little bit better. And since I am going to be running the Maximum Motorsport suspension, it is going to be lowered a little bit more. So those BBK headers are 110% going to be scraping 24/7 with the car. And with the added, you know, intercooler, I'm definitely going to have as much clearance as possible. And that's also why I'm going to be upgrading the intercooler. I did speak on this earlier. I'm going to be upgrading the intercooler to a treadstone, because the CX Racing intercooler, that intercooler actually hangs a little bit lower than the front bumper of the car. So it does scrape on some surfaces. So definitely when the car is lowered even more with that Maximum Motorsport suspension, it's definitely going to be scraping. So I need to go ahead and upgrade that to one that sits a little bit up top. The treadstone intercoolers, you know, have way better clearance, as well as the American racing headers also have better clearance. But like I said, I want to make an update video to let you guys know exactly what's going down, and kind of some other parts that are going to have to be thrown on this Mustang. And also to kind of give you guys a heads up, so you guys do not make my mistakes. You guys can learn from my mistakes. I mean, that's kind of this whole car process. You learn from your mistakes. So I'm not upset that this happened. It's just one of those things. It's like, damn, if I knew that this suspension setup needed to be fixed, I would have just honestly done it when I boosted the car, when it was already torn apart. Now it's just like, fuck, you know, you just tear it apart and things start to break down, because, you know, it's old parts, they're worn. When you take them off, obviously you're not going to put worn parts back on the car, because that's how you just break it even faster. So definitely, if you're doing long tube headers and you have not replaced your clutch, definitely go ahead and replace that clutch. You will thank yourself in the long run. Trust me, you will. Also, I have not diagnosed the transmission yet. I'm pretty sure the transmission is fine. Hopefully it's not completely messed up. It probably is. I know reverse was a little bit sketchy on the trans, but hopefully, you know, it's still in good shape. You know, I could be driven around, maybe, you know, raced a little bit, but time will tell. So yeah. Now for the good news of this video, I actually have a front bumper, I have a rear bumper, and I also have a new front Mach 1 chin spoiler coming in. And I also have a 4-inch Savini's cowl hood that I've had for over a month that I haven't even put in the car yet. All that's going to get painted next week. So hopefully, fingers crossed, when the car is finished, hopefully, you know, this upcoming week, we'll go ahead and throw on the new front bumper, the new rear bumper because that had that damage from the rock chips from doing burnouts. I wasn't the one that did it, but the previous owner 100% was launching the car, so that's gonna get replaced. And then we get the Cervini's 4-inch cowl hood that we're gonna paint on the car, and it's pretty much gonna look brand new in my opinion. Like the whole front end literally is gonna be, you know, redone, get a new clutch, and we're just gonna be cruising it around until, you know, that motor does come in, which hopefully will be ready to go. It's getting built by a shop out here in Houston, so just waiting on parts, man. You know, the Manley rods, Manley pistons, and obviously you have a forged crankshaft. There's a lot of stuff that is out of my control. It's out of the engine builder's control, so we're just waiting on things to come in, and then we'll be good to go and ready to push, you know, 800 or more horsepower on the new Edge Mustang. So if you guys did enjoy, make sure you guys drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, and also turn those post notifications. Want to update you guys and give you guys some insight on things that you guys might run into if you're going to be building a 2-valve 4.6. Catch y'all on the next one. Deuces.